6:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Romesh Piris and read by Geethanjali Ramanayaka. The headlines. The President receives blessings at the Sacred Tooth Relic Temple. The Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka claims that the required funds have been allocated to honour loan commitments. The leader of the opposition says futuristic plans are needed to develop a country. COVID-19 recoveries in Sri Lanka is on the rise. The vaccination drive for children between the ages of 12 and 15 to begin on Friday. All schools to fully function from Monday. International news. Omicron fuels record cases from the US to Australia. Sports 2022 Birmingham Commonwealth Games. Queen's baton is brought in procession to the Independence Square. News in detail. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa received blessings at the Temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic after attending religious ceremonies at the temple this morning. The President, who visited the Temple of the Tooth Relic, was received by the Diyawadana Nilame Nilanga Dela. The President also exchanged views with devotees at the temple premises. The Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Ajith Niwad Cabral, claims that the required funds for the $500 million international sovereign bonds that are maturing on the 18th of January have been allocated. Governor Ajith Niwad Cabral, taking to Twitter, said despite claims by certain factions, the CBSL has taken measures to honour its commitments. He added that some investors lost out as a result of negative stories due to vested interests. Meanwhile, earlier this morning, Governor Cabral dismissed rumours that Sri Lankan banks have been ordered by the central bank to forcibly convert balances in customers' forex accounts. The governor said some disruptive elements are spreading such false rumours. The leader of the opposition, Sajith Premadasa, says futuristic plans are required to order to develop a country. MP Premadasa said when implementing such plans, attention should be paid to the most sensitive needs. MP Premadasa, speaking at a gathering in Kenya, said shortcomings must be addressed before it leads to life-changing incidents. He said solutions can be provided only through a far-sighted approach and with knowledge, intellect and wisdom to prevent such things. Another 141 persons who contracted the novel coronavirus have recovered and have been discharged from the hospitals, raising the number of recoveries to 561,412. The epidemiology unit of the Ministry of Health said, accordingly, 12,462 persons are currently receiving treatment for the coronavirus at several facilities across the country. The number of COVID-19 cases confirmed in Sri Lanka remains at 588,929, following the detection of 629 patients yesterday. Sri Lanka's coronavirus death toll is currently at 15,055. Meanwhile, the epidemiology unit of the Ministry of Health said 32,182 Pfizer booster doses were administered yesterday. The epidemiology unit of the Ministry of Health reported 34,104 coronavirus vaccine doses were administered at vaccination centres across the island yesterday. Accordingly, 13,850,844 persons have thus far been fully vaccinated, while 4,148,811 individuals have thus far received the Pfizer booster jab. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Sri Lanka Insurance Motor Plus, the best option.
All schools will fully function from Monday, the 10th of January, under strict health guidelines. The Ministry of Health said the Director General of Health Services has accordingly granted permission to normalise academic activities in all schools from grade 1 to 13 from Monday, the 10th of January 2022. Minister of Health Keheliya Rabukwala said guidelines in relation to school reopening will be issued shortly. Schools are functioning on a staggered basis at present, with schools with a large number of students attending classes only in groups. Minister Rabukwala said since considerable progress has been made in relation to vaccinating children against COVID-19, a decision has been taken to fully reopen schools. The government today insisted that there is no move to curtail the freedom of speech. Media Minister Dallas Alhapurama, speaking to reporters today, said that President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and the government are open to constructive criticism. He said the President and the Cabinet have at no point discussed the idea of imposing a ban on being critical against the government. The Minister also said that the government has a responsibility to accept any claims made with concrete evidence. The Eastern Province Senior Deputy Inspector General of Police, Kamal Silva, inaugurated the Eastern Provincial Office of the National Police Commission in Batticaloa. The National Police Commission will function for Trincomalee, Batticaloa and Ampara districts. Daily operational functions will be carried out, headed by a provincial director. The main purpose of the commission is to create better public relations and to provide an efficient service to the public in the province. And that ends local news for now.
In 200 meters, turn left.
This is not just my daily commute. I drive to power my nation's future. Sri Lanka Insurance Motor Plus introduces specialized motor insurance for you who drive our nation forward. Choose tailor-made insurance solutions. Up to 75,000 rupees claim settlements within 3 working hours. Exclusive discounts through Motor Plus loyalty rewards. Easy and 0% interest payment plans. Only from Sri Lanka Insurance.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Sri Lanka will begin vaccinating children between the ages of 12 and 15 years from Friday. Minister of Health Keheliya Rabukwala confirmed that the preparations have been made to vaccinate children between 12 and 15 years of age from Friday, the 7th of January. Approval has been granted by the health authorities to administer 1 dose of a vaccine against COVID-19 for children above the age of 12 years. Vaccines were administered to children between the ages of 15 and 19 years thus far, while those between 12 and 15 years with health complications were also inoculated. Accordingly, around 30,000 children have been vaccinated thus far against COVID-19. Meanwhile, the Health Minister has said teachers can also obtain the booster shots at the same sites where school children are being vaccinated. Furthermore, non-academic staff members and those involved in transporting school children can also obtain the booster jabs at the vaccination centres used to inoculate children between the ages of 12 and 15 years. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
In Watchlight, the Secretary of the Ministry of Environment, Dr. Anil Jasinghe, says although the coronavirus has been controlled to a certain extent, virus caseloads could increase once again. Dr. Jasinghe said all health measures taken to control the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic must continue. He added the public is aware of the challenges the country is facing due to the pandemic. Dr. Jasinghe claimed that from the inception, advice was issued to all groups to take precautions to avoid the spread of the virus. And that was Watchlight.
Coming up, World News.
In the headlines, Omicron fuels record cases from the US to Australia. Beijing is preparing to host the 2022 Winter Olympics behind huge isolation bubbles. Army officer completes remarkable solo South Pole trek. World news in detail now. Omicron is driving record daily cases of coronavirus from the United States to Australia, adding pressure on health services. Australia, once fated for its success in controlling the virus, reported 64,758 new cases today, most of them in the states of the New South Wales and Victoria. Meanwhile, China is doubling down on its COVID-0 strategy, announcing new city lockdowns in response to only few cases, and Hong Kong is ordering people who were in some 57 locations visited by close contacts of a person later confirmed with Omicron to undergo compulsory testing. Beijing is preparing to host the 2022 Winter Olympics, but the Games will look different this time. China is continuing a zero-COVID strategy as international teams prepare to head to China from corners of the world swamped by Omicron. The Chinese authorities hope to manage this by keeping the media, athletes and observers in huge separate isolation bubbles, which incorporate not only housing and event locations, but also transport links. An army officer is thought to have become the first woman of color to complete a solo expedition across Antarctica. Preet Chandi trekked 700 miles in 40 days, facing temperature of minus 45 degrees Celsius, poor visibility and fatigue along the way. The 32-year-old from Derby, United Kingdom said she set the challenge because she wanted to inspire others to push boundaries. Captain Chandi, an army physiotherapist who goes under the name Paula Preet, spent 2 years planning and training for the expedition. Back to the headlines of the world news. Omicron fuels record cases from the US to Australia. Beijing is preparing to host the 2022 Winter Olympics behind huge isolation bubbles. Army officer completes remarkable solo South Pole trek. And that ends world news.
Development News is brought to you by Let's take coal out of the coconut tree and make the island thriving and prosperous. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928.
Considering the current crisis situation in the country, the government has decided to allocate 31 billion rupees to restart home gardening program with the aim of increasing food production. And the cabinet approval has been received for the initiative. Minister of Finance Basil Rajapaksa has stated that home gardening will be resumed throughout the country in the same manner as it was during the tenure of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa as the president. And that was development news.
Development News was brought to you by the coconut tree is well grown in almost all the parts of the island. It is an exceptional source of extra income. The shell, the husk and almost all the parts of the coconut tree makes you money, providing you with an excellent extra source of income. It will also help to nourish the economy of the country. You will be guided with all necessary informations regarding the coconut cultivation with the novel cultivation techniques and all other related and upgraded informations by the Coconut Research Institute, Lunavilla. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928.
Sports news. The Birmingham 2022 Queen's Baton Relay. The Queen's Baton, the forerunner to the 2022 Birmingham Commonwealth Games, reached Sri Lanka, making it the 25th of its destinations. The baton travelled to selected locations in the country until its departure tomorrow to Bangladesh. Earlier today, the baton reached Colombo Sports Ministry ground and was brought in procession to the Independence Square. Earlier in the day, the Queen's Baton was presented to Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. The 16th official Queen's Baton Relay is an epic journey across the Commonwealth, with the Queen's Baton visiting all 72 Commonwealth nations and territories, reaching Europe, Africa, Asia, Oceania, the Caribbean and the Americas. And that was Sports News.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Maxons Holdings, manufacturers of Multilac, Mac Tiles, and a conglomerate of building materials, yesterday announced a minimum per head salary increment of 5,000 rupees upwards for the entire workforce across the group. The increment came hours after the government announced that the state sector workers would be given a 5,000 rupee pay hike, and made in keeping with the request made by the Minister of Finance Basil Rajapaksa. Maxons Holdings has over 3,000 employees, and since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, the company has taken measures to ensure that the welfare of the workers. And that was Business News.
Business News, sponsored by
cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Economic news, courtesy of...
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
The Colombo Stock Exchange set a new record today as the all-share price index surpassed 13,000 points for the first time in history. The ASPI closed at 13,076.91 points at the end of trading today, marking an increase of 2.16% or 276.37 points from the previous day. More than 951 million shares were traded overall within the day, and the market turnover is recorded at 15.56 billion rupees. Meanwhile, the S&P SL20 closed at 4,453.68 points today, up by 1.75% from the previous day. And that was economic news.
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
The weather report.
The Meteorological Department forecast showers or thundershowers to occur at times in the Ua province and in Batiklo, Ampara, Polonnaruwa, Matale and Nuwara districts. Several spare showers may occur in the Trincomalee and Anuradhapura districts. The Met Department further predicts showers or thundershowers to occur at several places in the Western and Sabaragamu provinces and in the Kandigal and Mathura districts during the evening or at night. And that was the weather report. And to conclude this news broadcast, back to the headlines. The President receives blessings at the Temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic. The Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka claims that the required funds have already been allocated to honour loan commitments. The leader of the opposition says futuristic plans are needed to develop a country. COVID-19 recoveries in Sri Lanka is on the rise. The vaccination drive for children between the ages of 12 and 15 to begin on Friday. All schools to fully function from Monday. International news: Omicron fuels record cases from the US to Australia. Sports: 2022 Birmingham Commonwealth Games, Queen's Baton is brought in procession to the Independence Square. And with that, we end this news broadcast.